Nevertheless, this obsession with war and the inability to imagine life without millions of corpses, both in the present and in the future, still prevails. It dominates, it rules the consciousness of Russia. And so, in the State Duma, where, as you know, they have been thinking for a very, very long time about how, in fact, to increase the population. In the State Duma, it was stated that poverty could become the key to high birth rates in Russia. And indeed, there were deputies who declared, and by the way, they were right to declare, that it is precisely poverty that is the main factor for improving the demographic situation. According to deputies from the committee investigating foreign state interference, in order for Russians to start having children, they do not need any material improvements. On the contrary, the deputies clearly stated that the very highest birth rates are consistently observed in economically disadvantaged countries, while in more affluent and wealthy nations, birth rates are notably and consistently low. And it must be said that this demographic proposal from the State Duma is sound, it is rational, and it truly has the potential to solve the pressing demographic problem facing the Russian Federation. Undoubtedly, those driven to utter stupidity by poverty reproduce much more actively than those who have the opportunity to consider the consequences of mating. It is precisely poverty that degrades people and turns mating into the only available form of entertainment. Of course, in order to quickly bring the populace to an animalistic state, the State Duma, the government, and the president will have to make serious efforts, but the regime has every opportunity to successfully implement such a program. It is not hard to notice that a course has already been set for the sharp impoverishment of the population. The important thing is not to stray from the chosen path and to show the necessary firmness. Of course, in that case, any whining from the press, as they like to do, and publications about some starving little kids rummaging around in the dirt and rags in their multi-story barracks will be absolutely unacceptable. Well, yes, indeed, then the shortage of trench meat that worries Putin will probably be overcome. And of course, in such cases, as examples from Asia and Africa show, what is called a certain overproduction is even possible. But even an excess of infants is not so frightening. This will provide Russian families with a living supply of nutritious natural food. As practices from the Paleolithic and Pleistocene show, large families with 5 to 10 children easily tolerate consuming parts of their own offspring as food. And as for the State Duma deputies who came up with such an astonishing idea, at the next plenary session, they should familiarize themselves with a detailed manual on how to use surplus human flesh. Such a manual exists. There is the absolutely astounding and incredible Jonathan Swift. He was someone whose thinking was probably freer than that of any of his contemporaries. Yes, of course, this is wild, wild sarcasm. Of course, this is unthinkable satire. But Swift has a work where all of this is described in great detail. And Swift writes that a small, healthy, 1 year old infant, properly cared for, makes for an extremely delightful and wholesome dish, regardless of whether it is stewed, roasted, baked, or boiled. And take a look at my Telegram channel. There are more Swift quotes there than I can, let's say, read to you right now. And there's no need to burden you with all of that. But even better, well, yes, the channel is good, of course, but after the channel, you absolutely must find this pamphlet of his. It's his work called A Modest Proposal. And as it turns out, really, these aren't some foreign agents. These aren't malicious outsiders wishing harm or a demographic crisis on Russia. No, not at all. There is an organization called RENEPA, It's a very serious, let's say, sociological research institution. And basically, they have found and proven that the main factor of poverty in Russia is children. Having a child increases the risk of falling below the poverty line by 4 to 6 times. And families with school age children are twice as likely to be impoverished as childless couples. So, as you can see, having many children is actually the surest path to poverty. And this creates a perfect, excellent, vicious circle. Poverty must be created. This poverty will trigger mindless childbearing, and then the children themselves, once born, will nip any signs of prosperity in the bud. It's a perfect scheme. And the more they destroy prosperity at its roots, the more frequent and reckless the mating will be, and the higher the level of animalistic behavior. That is, I would say, this is an almost unique way to achieve complete madness in this matter.